This is Anna Abramowitz coming to you live. Listen, if you're here, I really appreciate you coming by. I hope you find these really useful. By the way, if you want to learn more about my frameworks and systems, because I talk about scenario design and interactive episodes, go to scenariodesignSecrets.com. There you'll exchange your email address for access to one of my webinars where it's not publicly available, where basically I talk about my frameworks and I deconstruct them for you, and you'll learn a bit more about my process. But speaking of my process, today I got a great question and I want to discuss it for you guys, and it has to do with feedback. The question was sent to me by one of my course participants, and they said, you know, Anna, I don't know exactly, I'm always confused about where to put feedback in my learning, because we have assessments and we give feedback at the end. We have scenarios, we give feedback at the end. Does anybody ever read that stuff? Are you ever worried about that? So I'm going to give you a short and punchy story today that is going to share with you about, I think, at least my approach when I first started, before I developed my system, about how I approached feedback, and I think that maybe this will resonate with you. So last year, I live in Tofino, which is a remote community far, far away from the rest of the world. And there's this special island. It's called, what's it called? I forget the name of the island. Anyways, so beside Tofino, there's a special island. It's privately owned, and this place is off limits to everybody all year, but once a year they open it up to everybody. And they have beautiful gardens, and also they grow a bunch of really cool stuff there where they make like their own soap and stuff, which they sell in Tofino, and it's fabulous. It's absolutely fabulous. So everybody goes. It's a wonderful experience. And what happens is also to get to the island, you take a little boat across the ocean. And so there's a couple of ways to approach the island, because currents and all that stuff make a difference. Even though you can basically, if you were really good at throwing, you probably could hit a baseball over there on the beach. You still need to take that boat. Of course, put your life jackets and all that stuff. So last year I got to go, and one of my friends was with me. Actually, it's a family affair. It's super fun. And what happened is the guys that take us across that little channel there, I think they're volunteers, and most of those guys, it's their boats, and what they do is some of them have been doing that for years. So this one time we were crossing there, we had this older fisherman, sailor guy, right? Typical look guys, like weathered face, that beard, that salt and pepper beard, he had the cap on, like, super cool dude. And just wonderful personality, right? So then on the way there, he asks if any of the kids want to steer the boat. And so my friend's daughter, I think she's 8 at this point or something like that, and she puts up her hand and she wants to go and steer. So I don't know if you've ever seen oversteering, but basically oversteering, and this happens when people are new to even cars. Like, let's say you're veering into the wrong direction, instead of like just doing a slight adjustment, oversteering, people go, right? And so he lets her steer. And what happens is she's steering, and then the boat's going in because the current is kind of pushing us this way. So what she does to turn us in the other direction, and it's a big wheel. And for her, she's 8, is only even bigger wheel. She starts oversteering. So she goes, and then basically the boat goes, right? And then so that happens, and she adjusts it the other way, super hard rough, so it goes, right? It's super rough. And so me and her mom are in the back, like we're sitting down and we're trying to watch this, right? But the minute she oversteers, we're like, and he just looks at us. The captain just looks at us with that shh look. Like, let her figure it out. Let her suffer a bit, because she's working hard. She's trying to steer this boat, and she's like, what am I doing, right? What am I doing? And the thing is, she did that almost the whole way there. And we were both like, okay, but he's in the back, like he's just there. And there was a point where he had to like take it over from her. He said, just stand beside me. And I got to do this because we were going through a really tight channel. There was not going to be any zigzagging here. It was like tight and rocks were coming out from the water. You had to be tight. And then I thought about the fact that how fabulous that was, that like I really had a really good aha moment. And if you're thinking about, you know, when to give feedback, he really held back. And she watched him after that, because now all of a sudden she had experienced the drama of steering. And now she's standing beside him, watching him intently. And at that moment, he said, did you want to try again? I can show you another way. And she was totally open to it. But she observed him for a little while, probably reflected on her experience, and then she was ready for instruction. Do you think she would have been ready for instruction or even paid attention if he just said, okay, so how you steer the boat, little girl, is first, don't oversteer. She wouldn't even know what that is, right? She had to almost experience the consequences of oversteering to understand what it was. And I thought that was beautiful. And that's how I think feedback should be given, especially with when we do scenarios for adults. Because kids are, I mean, at this point, you pretty much get it, right? Like, wait, let them figure it out. They're in a safe place. Well, there was people's lives on stake, but this guy knew what he was doing. So what I'm thinking is, when we craft our scenarios, right? We have to stop being the mom, and we have to start being the, what do we call him? The sea captain, the sailor, almost, right? The captain. Where we have this watchful eye, we let them suffer. It's okay. We know it's for their own good. We're not going, ooh, a lot of training is like this, where the minute somebody makes a mistake, they're like, hey, here's a hint. Here you go. Don't fall down. You might bruise a knee, right? We're like that. That's okay. I mean, there's places when you need to do that, when it's a baby. But with adults, if you set up this scenario, it's pretty provocative, pretty awesome. And they need to struggle a little bit. That's good for their brains. So don't offer up feedback, because this is the other thing. They might read it, but they won't really internalize it because they haven't suffered enough. People need to face that challenge, that they're not actually ready for something, that they are actually needing your help. Because a lot of times what will happen is they'll try something, it won't work. The consequence will be like, well, yeah, that sucked. I'm not as good. The feedback will be so fast. The feedback, in fact, will probably, a lot of times people do this, they mix the feedback and the consequence in the same thing together, and then the person doesn't get a chance to really suffer. And then when they see the correct action, they're like, yeah, that's what I would have done. So it doesn't really feel like they failed yet. And one of the misconceptions that I think we believe is that if somebody fails, then that's what they'll remember. There's no way. There's no way. Because then you would have never learned to walk. Like 90% of that up until you started to walk was failure. But somehow you did it. You just kept on trying. So what I want you to think about is, when you're designing your questions, your scenarios, your feedback will be read. People will be more receptive to it. People will actually appreciate it and perceive it if you let them struggle a little bit with the wrong answer. If you let them see the consequences of their poor decisions and let that simmer a bit. That's why stories are really good here, because they amp up the emotion. So it's not just like you fail, you're like, you killed 24 people on a boat. What? That was me? Oh my gosh. Okay, maybe I should read that manual. Let's check some procedures. Okay, give me some feedback. How can I get better at this, right? So that's really what you're doing. So think about the little girl. She needs to suffer. She needs to be like, oh my God, what am I doing? I thought I knew. I volunteered. Oh, mom's there. Mom's looks like she's freaking out. That's a part of consequence. But she's not saying anything. Nobody's helping me. So there's a bit of that. but it's beautiful, and it's and then whatever you present to them, they actually are interested and receptive to it. And I've seen tons of learning where you get like not only somebody says, that's right, you got the right answer. That's not good enough. Like, if you're going to give me feedback, make it really contextual. Help me. It's not like if you're watching me do something and you're going, yeah, that's right, no, that's wrong, yeah, that's right. Like, to me, it's more like, hey, you know how you did that? That was good, but to improve that, what you need to do is apply this. Or when you're doing this action, think about this. That'll help you in the future. So teach me something. Use that feedback to teach me something. Don't just make it that's right, that's correct, you're a champ. That's not good enough. That's that kind of pat on the head I don't need. Make that feedback juicy. Optimize that moment because I'm actually ready for it. So maybe you can give me a little bit more than if I never actually thought I was, not doing well. So don't be the mom. Be the sailor captain guy. When you're ready, feedback will be provided and it will be so good, you will be looking for more. All right. So hope that was helpful. Maybe just spurred some information. All this is doing is just, it's not changing everything. You don't have to rewrite things, not necessarily. You just have to space them out a bit. Separate the consequence from the scenario. Just tell them what happened. Show them what happened is even better. And then when they've got a chance to think about it a bit, then give them the feedback. It's okay. You can give them the feedback. I know you want to. That's fine. But sometimes it's a little bit better to give it a little bit later so they have a chance to think about it on their own, make connections on their own, reflect on it on their own, and then get the correction. All right? Okay, so have a wonderful rest of the day. I will be talking to you again tomorrow. I don't know when. It really depends on my meetings, but this one will be about another way that you can give feedback, because I got a lot of really great questions from my members about this, and I thought I'd share them with you so that you can also benefit. All right, take care, say hi. You got questions, post them in the comments. I usually go back and visit and check to see if there's anything in there that I can help with or I can make a video about. All right, take care, friends.